As the weather cools down in the fall, nights get longer, and jack-o'-lanterns pop up on porches, it's the perfect season to dive into the scariest and best horror games. Our 2024 list of top horror games features the spookiest titles, no matter what platform you're on, and focuses on how well these games hold up today. Sure, some horror classics from back in the day may not have aged well, but we stand by this list of horror games that you can still enjoy tonight. We've handpicked games that aren't just terrifying and top-notch, but also super accessible today, so you won't need to dust off an ancient console hiding in your closet to get into any of these titles. Alan Wake 2 is one of the freshest games on the list, and it might just be the most fearless. You definitely want to play the original first to get a grip on this mind-twisting sequel, but if you're in a hurry, we've got you covered with a quick recap of all the crazy stuff that went down in the first Alan Wake. Alan Wake 2 is straight up a masterpiece when it comes to video game storytelling. From creepy moments in the woods to some mind-blowing plot twists, brutal boss fights, and even some super weird scenes we won't spoil for you here. The dual campaign setup is unique, and this kind of horror game doesn't pop up often. No Code might blow up soon with Silent Hill Downfall, but horror fans need to check out Observation before it gets overshadowed. This slow burn, brainy sci-fi horror set on a creepy space station is a hidden gem. It takes some vibes from heavy hitters like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Alien, but still tells a unique story that'll leave you both freaked out and fascinated. Gameplay-wise, it's more of an adventure game than your typical survival horror, but that doesn't mean it won't mess with your head. With a central mystery, no spoilers here, and an ending you'll never see coming, Observation easily ranks as one of the most atmospheric and unforgettable games out there. Ever wondered how dangerous Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees would be if people were actually ready and packing heat? Showdown kinda answers that for you. This game throws you into the muddy boots of a hunter in Louisiana Bayou back in 1895, tasked with taking down nightmare-inducing monsters. You gotta track them, hunt them, and get ready for a showdown if you want that sweet bounty. But here's the kicker. You're not the only one after the big payday. Other mercs are out there gunning for the same prize. The mix of intense competition and savage creatures that can wipe you out in seconds if you're not prepared makes this game a wild ride. And with the latest 1896 update bringing a fresh map, new characters, and a system overhaul, Hunt Showdown is better than ever. An already killer game taken to the next level. Of all the games on this list, Sylvio 2 might be the most underrated gem that most gamers haven't heard of, but that just shows how dead serious we are about giving it a spot next to some genre heavyweights. The original Sylvio was flawed, sure, but it had flashes of brilliance from a solo dev studio. Sylvio 2 cranks that potential up to a whole new level of creepy awesomeness. In Sylvio 2, you step into the shoes of a ghost hunter, recording both audio and, for the first time in the series, video of supposedly haunted places. Then you dig through your recordings to find evidence of spirits. The level of detail in these recordings is next level eerie, so much so that it really feels like you're sitting in the dark with headphones on, discovering the existence of ghosts. Seriously, play this game in the right vibe, and you'll be absolutely floored by this low-budget horror title that punches way above its weight when it comes to audiovisual design. The original Alien film from 1978 still slaps as a tight, well-crafted showdown against some serious extraterrestrial hostility. Fast forward to 2014, and developer Creative Assembly caught that same cinematic magic in a bottle, turning it into a survival horror experience that might just outshine the movie sequels. Set 15 years after the events of Alien, Alien Isolation throws you into the boots of Amanda Ripley, Ellen Ripley's daughter, who's on a mission to uncover what really happened to her mom. But trust me, that's way easier said than done. The decommissioned Sevastopol trading station is a straight-up death trap, packed with shady survivors ready to backstab you, glitchy androids, and, of course, the ever-looming terror of a xenomorph hunting you down. Easily the best digital take on the Alien universe and its nightmare fuel mascot. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Your chances of surviving a perfect organism with zero conscience or remorse are slim. But hey, you've got our sympathy. We're sticking to one game per series on this list, and picking just one from the Amnesia series was tough. In the end, we rolled with the newest entry since it nailed replayability in ways the earlier ones didn't, and it's probably the scariest of the bunch. Amnesia: The Bunker throws you into the chaos of World War I, where you're up against a massive beast that stalks the walls, always hunting, never satisfied. Kind of like Alien Isolation's Xenomorph. The monster in the bunker isn't fully scripted, so every run switches things up a bit. You'll feel every win and definitely own every fail. Oh, and don't forget to lock that safe room door, if you even make it back. I'm not sure what's more unsettling about the Mortuary Assistant, the eerie atmosphere in the mortuary, or the fact that the game lets you step into the role of a mortician. You're tasked with preparing bodies for funerals, performing tasks like draining blood, embalming, and more. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, you're just doing your job, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. The whole experience feels unnervingly real and intense. Soon enough, though, strange things start happening. Doors slam shut by themselves, odd noises come from the body bags, and you catch movements just out of the corner of your eye. The new definitive edition on consoles and PC adds even more unsettling content to a game already full of multiple endings and hidden secrets. After playing this, you might be up all night. Dead Space was one of the early bangers of 2023, and in a year packed with big-name blockbusters, this remake of the 2008 survival horror classic still held its own as a solid Game of the Year contender. And yeah, it's easy to see why. Developer EA Motive didn't just slap some 4K textures on the original and call it a day. Nah, they rebuilt this sci-fi horror beast from the ground up, throwing in smart design upgrades that take the terror to the next level. The result? Non-stop fear in the icy blackness of space, adaptive difficulty that'll keep you on edge, and jaw-dropping graphics that'll make you want to grab a barf bag every time a necromorph comes creeping out of the shadows. The Little Nightmares series is about to drop its third installment, and for the first time, it's bringing co-op gameplay to the mix. But when it comes to scares, it's still chasing that adrenaline rush from the original creepy first game. Like the title hints, this series is all about bringing a kid's worst nightmares to life. You're stuck in this disturbing, foggy world full of all kinds of freaky, inhuman monsters, each weirder than the last. Playing Little Nightmares feels like one of those bad dreams where you just can't wake up. Normally, no one's really looking to dive headfirst into a nightmare, but in a video game, it just works. The monsters here look like they've been glitched out in the creepiest way, like someone used the wrong clay when sculpting them. It's a solid horror platformer, but it's the visuals and the sound design that'll haunt you long after you log off. The previous version of this list had Outlast 2, and if you're just looking for the scariest one in the series, that's still the one. But now in 2024, after spending a year in Steam Early Access, the Outlast Trials dropped its full 1.0 version, and it's easily one of the top co-op horror games out there. The same twisted, hardcore settings and crazy scenarios that made this series legendary are back, but now it's all in a setup you can replay endlessly with up to 4 players in co-op. Across tons of maps, players gotta squad up to handle a bunch of different objectives, all while dodging freaky enemies like Sergeant Coyle, Franco Barbie, and the straight-up nightmare-inducing Mother Gooseberry. The signature jump scares might not hit as hard when you've got friends with you in the Outlast Trials, but the crew at Red Barrels built an epic metagame that'll keep you grinding to unlock all the creepy rewards. And if you're feeling brave and want the same level of fear as the other games in the series, you can always run it solo too. When Phasmophobia dropped in 2020, it quickly became a major hit on Twitch, kind of like Paranormal Activity, but with multiplayer vibes. You're loaded up with all the ghost hunting gear you could dream of, except for any actual ghost-busting tools. And you've got several haunted spots to explore, plus a bunch of angry phantoms that really aren't feeling the whole living thing. Going solo is terrifying enough, but when you squad up with your crew, the built-in voice chat makes things even more intense. The ghosts and demons can hear your chatter and will react based on what you're saying. If you're feeling brave, or maybe just crazy, you can take the game to the next level in VR, where you'll get some serious jump scares when those spirits get all up in your face. How terrifying can low-poly graphics get? Terrifying enough to make you scream out the names of several gods in panic. Developer Puppet Combo has mastered the art of retro horror that'll hit you right in the nostalgia. If you're one of those who think they just don't make them like they used to, or you're on the hunt for some old-school scares, Puppet Combo should be your next destination. This dev studio is straight up inspired by PlayStation 1's survival horror classics, gory slasher flicks from the 80s, and the golden era of VHS. These games are modern throwbacks that'll slap a grin on your face while stabbing your character right in the back. A modern list of top-tier horror games isn't complete without giving a shout-out to liminal spaces. Nowadays, Steam is loaded with these kinds of games thanks to how viral they've gone on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. After grinding through every liminal space and backroom-style game I could find, I've got to say, the Complex Expedition is the MVP. It's a whole level above the rest when it comes to atmosphere, story, and visuals. Though if you're not tied to the backrooms vibe specifically, Pools is also a solid option. In the Complex Expedition, you're basically a worker sent to explore a liminal space. But here's the catch. You've got zero clue why you're there, when this all happened, or even where you are. Not that it'd matter much, because once you glitch through reality and land in this creepy, almost hostile zone, those details feel useless. The layout changes up a lot, but the constant feeling of dread and where the heck am I disorientation stays. If you haven't fallen down the liminal space rabbit hole yet, this game is a perfect starting point. Let it take over your Instagram feed like it did mine. Choosing just one Resident Evil game for a list like this? Yeah, that's a serious grind. Even if you filter out some of the more action-heavy Resi titles, you've still got a bunch of horror classics to debate. But in the end, we landed on the remake of Resident Evil 2 as the ultimate pick for a few solid reasons. First off, while the OG game is awesome, the remake is easy to get your hands on and already a classic in its own right. Roaming around that twisted police station as Leon S. Kennedy, it's enough to make your head spin, and that confusion amps up the horror big time. But the real game changer? Mr. X. That towering dude is always lurking, making sure your anxiety levels stay maxed out. Resident Evil 2 gets the crown because of moments like hearing those footsteps in the distance. If you hear them, better haul it to the nearest safe room. After being away for 10 years, Silent Hill is about to make a massive comeback. Part of this revival includes a remake of Silent Hill 2, developed by the horror experts at Bloober Team. However, the team has a challenging task ahead. The original Silent Hill 2 is widely regarded not only as one of the best games in the series, but also as one of the greatest horror games of all time. It tells a tragic story, combined with complex and mysterious puzzles, as the protagonist James Sunderland finds himself trapped in his own personal nightmare. Silent Hill 2 explores themes of facing personal demons, pain, and guilt. Although the gameplay may seem a bit outdated after 20 years, the story remains a masterpiece. The deeper you go, the more shocking and mind-blowing it becomes. Ever wanted to play a game that'll mess with your head in ways you didn't even know were possible? Then SOMA is the way to go. Straight from the minds behind Amnesia over at Frictional Games, this sci-fi horror experience is set deep under the ocean, where things get real weird, real fast. It's not just about dodging monsters either. This game makes you question what it means to even be human, diving deep into themes like identity and consciousness. But don't worry, it's not just philosophy class underwater. You've got twisted humans, freaky creatures, glitchy robots, and an AI puppeteering your every move, all waiting to mess you up. Every corner of that underwater facility is a threat, and even after you rage quit or actually finish, SOMA's still gonna haunt you for days. Supermassive used to be all about making spin-offs based on PlayStation IPs from other big-name studios, but that totally flipped with Until Dawn. This game kicked off their run of killer horror titles, and honestly, it's still the best bang for your buck. Until Dawn starts off like your classic slasher flick, teens chilling in the woods, thinking they're in for a wild night. But of course, things get spooky and bloody real quick with some insane twists you won't see coming. The choices, done in that Telltale style, turn it into an unexpectedly awesome party game too. You and your friends can take turns trying to keep the main characters alive, or not. If The Evil Within felt like Resident Evil 4 on steroids, the sequel gives off major The Last of Us vibes, minus the heartwarming moments. You'll spend a lot of time crouching and sneaking past enemies, hoping to land that sweet stealth kill if you're lucky. But don't worry, the twisted, mind-bending horror from the first game is still alive and kicking. You're back in the boots of Sebastian Castellanos, and this time The Evil Within 2 gives you a small hub world to explore. After each major mission or story event, more secrets pop up, giving the game its own vibe compared to the first. Oh, and heads up, there's a certain ghostly woman you'll meet. Good luck surviving her. People can be scary, but when they've got chainsaws, farm tools, and are rocking a mask made out of someone's face, yeah, that's a whole new level of messed up. And that's exactly what you're dealing with in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Gun Media's slasher game gives a fresh 4v3 twist to the asymmetrical horror genre, delivering a game packed with crazy jump scares that totally respects the original movie. They've nailed the terrifying vibes of the classic film, turning it into an intense game of chainsaw cat and mouse. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a solid mix of suspense and adrenaline-fueled tension. If you were bummed out by Redfall, let me put you onto a hidden gem, the Blackout Club. It's got some of that immersive sim vibe, but this time, you and your squad of misfit heroes go up against ancient horrors with way better design and slower, more strategic gameplay. In the Blackout Club, it's all about co-op stealth horror. You and your crew will dive under the streets of your quiet burb to take down a creepy cult that kidnaps people and turns some into clueless, sleepwalking pawns. Staying quiet is key here, and trust me, when things go south and the noise cranks up, you don't just hear it, you feel it. Co-op usually makes horror games less scary, but Lethal Company flips the script. In fact, some of the most terrifying moments happen because you're playing with your squad. In Lethal Company, up to 4 players dive into a nightmare world to collect resources for the company and hit those revenue targets. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. You better stay close to your crew, or the proximity chat and maze-like hallways will leave you lost in the dark, and the monsters are starving. Even when you upgrade to gear like a radio, flashlight, or a basic melee weapon, it barely gives you an edge. It's a constant grind to keep your bosses happy, but way too easy to end up as a monster's next meal. If you've got a VR headset, this is the horror game you've been searching for. And if you're still headsetless, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners might just be the killer app that finally pushes you to get one. Set in the Walking Dead universe, you'll step into the shoes of a survivor in the Deep South, fully immersed in first-person chaos. The combat system is straight up gritty, with a deep arsenal of weapons, from your classic guns and knives to makeshift tools like busted bottles and screwdrivers. Each level feels like a mini open-world hub, packed with interiors to explore and multiple paths to victory. The game's got that immersive sim vibe. Same goes for its sequel, Retribution, meaning you can plan or wing it depending on how you roll. But don't hang around too long. If you do, the horde will roll up on you hard. This isn't just one of the best horror games on VR, it's easily one of the best VR games, period.